Hey guys, it's Tim and this is Wrestling Unlimited as we are here on the 10th of August 2024 to talk about everything that went down tonight on AEW Dynamite Quake by the Lake. Now, I asked somebody from Minneapolis today, said, you guys get earthquakes? Earthquakes a common thing there? And I was told, no, not at all. Not in the least bit. So, quakes by the lake make no sense when there's never an earthquake in Minneapolis. Now, I'm not saying there's never been an earthquake in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but it ain't a common thing. It ain't a thing that person I spoke to who has lived all 36 years of their life in the city of Minneapolis, Minnesota has ever experienced. So, yeah. The name sounds cool, but didn't really fit for the city they were in. But with that, I thought tonight's Dynamite was a pretty good episode. I do have a qualm with how much blood we saw tonight. Now, you could say maybe not all of that blood was supposed to be there, but when WWE does blood, not WWE, AEW does blood as often as they do, using blood to make situations and matches seem more violent or more dire or more just more, it's kind of losing its charm. It's kind of losing its edge when it's like, it's a Moxley match. Of course he's bleeding. Like Moxley bleeding used to be like, oh, Moxley got busted open. Moxley's bleeding. He's going all ham. Now Moxley bleeding, I'd actually be worried if he doesn't bleed. Like, is something wrong? Moxley's not bleeding. That's how much blood in AEW, at least to me, means. It's almost nothing. It's almost nothing. As when WWE used blood this week on Dominic Mysterio to they had blood coming off like the side of his eye down his cheek a little bit after he was attacked by Rhea Ripley. Because WWE uses and does blood so infrequently, I got a fly in front of me. Because WWE does the blood so infrequently, when you see somebody bleeding in WWE, go, that's major. But in AEW, when you've got people bleeding 2, 3, 4, 5 times on a show, it's like, they're bleeding again. That's just the norm. It's like when you watch a GCW show and you see a bunch of people bleeding on those shows. It doesn't have the same effect of, oh my God, this is crazy. This is nuts. This is wild. They're bleeding. Well, everybody's bleeding. Everybody's bleeding. In AEW, you had 4 people bleeding tonight, if not more. I noticed 4. And you've always got, like I said, if it's a Moxley match and he doesn't bleed, I'd be worried. Same with Bryan Danielson. He even said it. Renee Paquette asked him at Starcast, they're like, when was the reason you chose AEW over WWE? He's like, well, the schedule, and I wanted to bleed. He's like, I knew if I went to AEW, they'd let me to bleed whenever I wanted. But allowing guys to bleed whenever they want has been taking a dive, I guess you could say. Excuse me. Because now too many people bleed in this company. Now, maybe you can say there wasn't supposed to be blood in the Coffin match. But still. It's like, even in Moxley matches, and I know I'm repeating myself now, blood means nothing to me in a Moxley match now. Because Moxley bleeds every match. Moxley does something to get himself blood. Get himself juice. So, it's lost its charm for me, and I've seen other people say that as well, that blood in AEW has lost its charm, and now it's more of just a gimmick than something that's cool. And at least that's just my opinion. If you don't agree with me, hey, that's your opinion. But to me, blood is now nothing more than a gimmick instead of something that is cool that they do that others don't do as much, or the big dogs don't do as much. But with that, I want to say thank you if you're watching live, twitch.tv/PWU Unlimited, or if you're watching or listening later, whether that's youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Unlimited, or, I feel like I'm going to sneeze, podcast services all around the globe like Stitcher, Spotify, Google Pod, Apple Pod, Anchor, iHeartRadio, and so much more. Woo! If you are not watching live and you're watching on YouTube, well, thank you. If you're listening on your podcast service, well, thank you. If we're not on a podcast service you listen to, well, then let us know. we'll try to get on there. But if you are watching live, you can help us out a couple of different ways. You can either help us out by hitting that donate button down below or by donating Twitch bits in the live chat. Also, remember, you can help us out one of two different ways. You can help us out by subscribing to the channel with a tiered subscription, or you can subscribe with Amazon Prime, because remember, if you have Amazon Prime or at least access to an Amazon Prime account, then you have Prime Gaming. And Prime Gaming gives you a lot of cool things like free games, free stuff for games, and they always give you one free subscription to any Twitch channel you want to subscribe to throughout the month. And I'd greatly appreciate it if you did right here, Pro Wrestling Unlimited. Again, right here, Pro Wrestling Unlimited. But with that, also, I do want to say, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the join button down below to become a channel member. As a channel member, you get early access to news, early access to podcast episodes, early access non-news videos, and so much more. Also, remember, you can get all of that, but more directly support us by heading over to patreon.com/PW Unlimited. But also, finally, Epic Game Store. Head over to the Epic Game Store and buy something, whether that's a new game, whether that's an old game, whether you're claiming one of the free games, or in bucks for Fortnite, Rocket League, or Fall Guys. Get them bucks, help us out, support the channel. There you go. But with that, we've got Dynamite to talk about that did open with the Coffin match. Darby Allin against Brody King. And I'm going to say it right now. I liked the finish of this match. I thought the finish was creative. Rest of the match, didn't really care too much about. Didn't really care much for most of this match. But the finish, I did like. Darby attacks King during the entrance and whacked him with a skateboard dotted with thumbtacks for the occasion. He grinded the skateboard against King's face, and King was immediately busted open badly. Out on the outside, King avoided a swing with the skateboard and sent Darby over the timekeeper's table. He broke the skateboard, infuriating Darby, who ran in with a relentless attack. Back inside, Darby hit an avalanche code red. King recovered on the outside and drove Darby hard into the barricade repeatedly, with the last one flipping Darby into the front row. The big man dominated through a commercial break, during which he also set up a table. Once back, Darby rolled out of the way of a diving splash, and King crashed through the table. Darby set up for the wild tope, but the lights went out, and when he came back on, of course, there's the House of Black, Malachi Black, and Buddy Murphy. They're standing out on the ringside area with Brody. Darby went for a dive, but Julia Hart tripped him, allowing Black and Buddy to beat him down. King crushed Darby through a propped up table with a cannonball senton. Crowd started chanting, "We want Sting." But when Buddy went out to open the coffin, boom, there was Sting, bat in hand. He attacked Buddy and King with the bat and then tossed the bat to Black for a challenge. Black thought about using it, but instead dropped the bat and retreated. Darby then landed a suicide dive, sending King precariously close to the coffin. The King recovered and slammed Darby onto the steel steps. King opened the coffin, but Darby fought back with the chain and choked him out. King collapsed right into the coffin, giving Darby the big victory. Here's the one thing I hated about this match, and maybe I missed it. Brody King never once tried to put Darby in the actual coffin. As far as, like, he opened it, I saw him open it, but he never actually tried to stuff Darby in there. He never tried to close Darby in the coffin. Also, Darby's losing a little bit of shine for me as far as, like, his charm. I'm kind of over Darby. Darby's been the same thing for 3.5 years in AEW now. Darby needs to evolve and try and do something different, but it's always the same thing. Emo kid that fights from the bottom, takes on the bigger guy, and then eventually squeaks by and gets a win. Not, oh, he was super competitive and super even and equal with the guy. No, he gets his ass beaten, and then squeaks by to pick up a win. Now, I'm not saying he's never been unequal or had competitive matches with guys, because he has competitive matches. I mean, the right word to use, but there's too much of Darby gets his ass beat. Darby gets flip-flopped around, and then Darby slips into a win. He banana peels into a win. Whoop! Darby somehow just won. So they need to do something with Darby that's a little different. I think that Darby needs to evolve, is what I'm saying. We need to see something different from Darby. Just a little. Not even a lot. Just something different. Jon Moxley was backstage. He talked about the meaning of the AEW World Championship, saying it was about enduring pain. Tonight, the last survivor of the Heart Dungeon returns, and Moxley will push him to his breaking point. If Chris Jericho's fighting spirit doesn't break, his body will. Again, this is another thing that I don't like AEW for doing. Oh, Jericho's got to be a different character. Like, really? Jericho's got to be a different character. Sometimes we have the sports entertainer Chris Jericho. Then we got Le Champion Chris Jericho. We got the Painmaker Chris Jericho. We got Lionheart Chris Jericho. They're all the same freaking guy. Hello. They're all the same freaking guy. Like, I get you try to say there's a difference. Like, the Lionheart Jericho uses more submissions. The Painmaker Jericho is more hardcore. Le Champion Chris Jericho is the base model Chris Jericho. Like, shit. And then the sports entertainment Chris Jericho is the over-the-top version of Chris Jericho. I get what all the different gimmicks are, but still, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. I get it. Jericho's reinvented himself X amount of times. He doesn't need to reinvent himself every other freaking week. So after the break, a clean-shaven, fresh-faced Chris Jericho said that he's going to become the new world champion. He said Stu Hart was vicious and sadistic, and he didn't want to think about the pain until tonight. Jericho's going to stretch Moxley and leave lasting scars. He was the first AEW champion, and he's going to be the next. We then got the brackets for the AEW Tag Team Title Tournament, which I'm going to pull up here on the screen. Let me pull those up. I cannot find the graphic. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Bum, 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 bum. All right. So we have 8 teams in the AEW World Trios Championship Tournament. The winners of this tournament, the first ever Trios champions, will be crowned at All Out in the first round. It's the Death Triangle against Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. Next week, we will see Andrade El Idolo, Dragon Lee, and Roosh take on the Young Bucks and a mystery opponent. Well, gee, I guess who that's going to be. We got the House of Black against Dark Order. More on Dark Order in this tournament later. And the Trust Busters against Best Friends. Now, if I'm looking at this first round, if I'm going to predict who comes out of the first round, I'm going to say Ospreay and Aussie Open, Young Bucks, and I'm assuming Kenny Omega. From the other side, it's a hard one, House of Black or Dark Order. I want to say House of Black, but they put a lot of emphasis on Hangman being in the corner of Dark Order for this tournament. But I'm going to go House of Black and then Trust Busters over Best Friends is Best Friends. Then the finals, I think the finals really could be Young Bucks and Omega against House of Black. I think, well, no. Now thinking about it, there's actually a possibility of Omega and the Young Bucks against Dark Order, where somebody in Dark Order gets injured and Hangman Page actually ends up on that team in the finals. To the moon. Book it. There we go. I'm booking it right now. It's the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega against Dark Order. Maybe it's Uno. Oh, who could it be? Uno, John Silver, Alex Reynolds. Silver or no, Uno gets taken out by maybe the Bucks and Omega. Insert Hangman Page to fill in, since he's really like, I want to see these guys win. I can't compete against them. I'm going to be in their corner. Insert Hangman Page, and then we get Hangman against the Bucks and Kenny. There we go. There we go. Lada bing, gada boom. I'm booking it right now. Next up, we had a tornado tag team match. It was La Fashion Ingobernable, Andrade El Idolo and Rush, with Jose the Assistant, against the Lucha Brothers, Penta El Cerro Miedo and Rey Fenix, with Alex Abrahantes at ringside. Super fun match. I really, really, really enjoyed this match a lot. Andrade and Rush controlled the action early on. Then it was just Rush and Penta in the ring for a striking exchange. Penta sent Rush to the floor, where Fenix landed dives on both opponents. Penta hit Maiden Penta for a 2. The Lucha Brothers went for their double team Fear Factor, but Andrade cut it off, and they tossed Fenix onto his own brother for a 2. Rush and Andrade landed simultaneous tope con grillos ahead of a commercial break. Once back from said break, Fenix took out Rush with an assisted Tigress, and Penta hit a backstabber on Andrade. The Lucha Bros hit a Cazadora splash on Andrade for a 2, an assisted double stomp for Fenix to get a 2 again. Then the Lucha Brothers hit simultaneous tope con grillos. That sneeze finally came out. Fenix went for a frog splash, but Andrade got his knees up and covered for a close 2. Andrade inadvertently thrust kicked his own partner. Penta cut off the hammerlock DDT, and Rush took out Penta with a shotgun dropkick. Andrade then hit double knees in the corner, but ran into a springboard thrust kick. Rush crushed Penta with a power bomb, but was cut off with a rolling cutter from Penta. Everyone was down. Eventually, Penta made his way to the apron, where he hit a destroyer on Andrade. He went for the Fear Factor on Rush, but Rush fought out of it and landed a jumping knee. A Rush headbutt stunned Fenix, and Andrade hit a final cut on him for a 2 as Rush tied Penta's mask into the ropes. Fenix tried to fight off Andrade with a thrust kick, but ran right into a missile drop kick. Rush had it won, but Penta unmasked him and made the save, like the famous octagon spot. I hear some weird music outside, I think. Oh, it might be the ice cream truck going through. But an ice cream truck coming through here the last couple of days. Very, very new, I guess you could say. We haven't had an ice cream truck in our neighborhood for as long as I've lived in this neighborhood for the past 5 years. But the last 3 days, I've had an ice cream truck because the gates at my apartment complex are not working right now, so they're just wide open. Anybody can drive right in. We've had a freaking ice cream truck drive in through twice on Monday, once yesterday, and I guess now once today. Interesting. The ice cream truck coming in at 8 o'clock at night. Anyways, sorry, I got distracted there. I get distracted very easily if you guys haven't been able to tell in the past. Where was I? Rush had it won, but Penta unmasked himself to make the save, like the famous octagon spot, which I already mentioned. Andrade then threw Penta's mask into the crowd, which I'm like, oh man, that's a souvenir for a fan. Jose took out Abrahantes, but Fenix rolled up Rush for a great near fall. Rush sent Fenix up for the bullhorns and nailed it. Then Andrade hit El Idolo's hammerlock DDT to pick up the win. So there we go. Andrade picks up the victory for his team. Then we got a very interesting segment, which we kind of already hit on in this review. So the Young Bucks were backstage in the locker room, and they ran into Dark Order and Hangman Page. The Bucks thanked Page for saving them against Adam Cole and Red Dragon in the attack last week. He pointed out how they went into the building where Page won the AEW World Championship, or they were in the building, because that's the same building from Full Gear last year that they were in tonight. I think it was the Target Center, what it is. Target Center in Minneapolis. Oop, clicked the wrong button there. Captain started to reminisce on the old times that they had together. He also said that they were sorry for never congratulating Page on winning the World Championship and this and that. And maybe him and Nick are bad people, and maybe they've been down a bad road here recently. But when they're around Page, they feel like he brings out the best in them. He would go on to say that there is nobody else right now in AEW that they would want more to be their partner in this tournament as far as for the tag titles. Page then pondered the question for a moment before saying, I can't do it. I just don't think I can. He would then go on to state that when he won the world title, who was there for him? When the Bucks and Omega turned on him, who was there for him? The Dark Order. That he basically appreciated the offer, but he actually wants to see the Dark Order win it all. He wants to see the Dark Order become the first ever Trios champions. And because of that, he also wants to be in their corner for this tournament. Which leads me to think that there is a chance that he ends up joining Dark Order in the tournament, maybe even just in the finals against Omega and the Young Bucks. It's going to be Kenny. It's going to be Kenny. But as we move forward, he basically told him that he can't do it. He can't want to root for the Dark Order and be in their corner, but also competing in the same tournament to possibly take the opportunity away from them. The Bucks were, I guess you could say, deflated a little bit to hear this. Walked away. Sugar Boy made his entrance. Joined commentary. Luchasaurus beat the crap out of Anthony Henry. Luchasaurus absolutely just brutalized Henry with a German suplex early. Henry hit an enziguri, but Luchasaurus returned fire with a headbutt and a fossilizer. Pick up the victory. After the match, Christian started to talk on the Titantron, the big screen. Jungle Boy immediately sprinted to him from commentary to attack him, but was restrained by security. Luchasaurus saw this and attacked all the security guards, chokeslamming one onto a crate before headbutting Pat Buck, who had run in to stop things. Jungle Boy then called for help. Check on him. Then we got more teases of the former Lana CJ Perry possibly coming to AEW. Miro's in the back talking about temptation. Julia Hart would walk up and she's like, I know what you're going through. You need to give in to the House of Black. I did, and it's been the best thing for me. She like goes to touch his arm or face or something like that, and he goes, hey, there was only one woman allowed to touch the Redeemer, and it is not you. Miro then dismissed her. He said his path is the House of Black. Honestly, I think this is all leading to, I don't know how, but it's all leading to his wife coming in, I think. There's a very good chance his wife comes in. In the back, Powerhouse Hobbs was asked about being done with Ricky Starks. Before he could answer, though, QT Marshall and the Factory all walked up and said that they'd finish Starks for him tonight. Hobbs told QT not to let his problem become Hobbs's. We then got Jay Lethal, Sanjay Dutt, and Satnam Singh in the ring. Dutt talked about Satnam slamming Wardlow through a table and said that they weren't done with Wardlow. Lethal gave Wardlow an offer. Either defend the title against me, or we'll come take it from you. Wardlow then made his way out to the ring. He could have a shot. He said that he could have a shot if he wanted it, but tonight he's whooping all three of their asses. He stormed the ring, but on the way down, all of a sudden the music of FTR would play. Basically, we got a small little mini Pinnacle reunion. Lethal and company retreated when FTR and Wardlow jumped into the ring. Lethal then tried to attack Wardlow, but was hit with the big rig from FTR. On the back, 2.0, Daniel Garcia and Anna JAS were being interviewed. 2.0 said that Jericho would win the title tonight, and they would have a huge celebration already prepared for him. Garcia called up Bryan Danielson and called himself the new Dragon Slayer. Jay found Rebel walking by and accused her of not thinking Garcia's the Dragon Slayer, so she choked her out. Like, really? We then had Ricky Starks versus Aaron Solo. If you don't know, these two got history. Two tag team for quite a while before AEW was a thing. Before AEW was a thing. So these two had a really good match here. Wrestled around early on until Cole Carter tripped up Starks, leading to the official ejection of them, the Factory. Starks quickly recovered and Solo countered the Rochambeau. Starks was then about to hit the spear for the victory, and he did, and he got it. After the match, Nick Camarado would attack. Starks was able to fight him off for a moment, but then he was overwhelmed with a 2-on-1 attack, but then avoided a chair shot and ran up the ramp to escape the rest of the Factory. The cameras, excuse me. Cameras then cut to the backstage area. Pop smashed the TV backstage. Excuse me. Then got the Gun Club. Billy berated his sons for losing his signature dumpster match. Took half the way, then walked up and started to talk, but Billy cut him off and sent him packing. Danhausen then walked up and said, because earlier Billy's like, I got you match on Rampage. You're gonna redeem yourselves. Danhausen then walked up and said that I'll be in that match against you guys at Rampage, ass boys. See you on Friday. We learned later that it's the Gun Club against Danhausen and Eric Redbeard, who they're calling Beardhausen. So the best friends were backstage, who were immediately interrupted by the Trustbusters. Ari Daivari, not Aria anymore, Ari Daivari. Because he's supposed to be a play on Ari Emanuel. Ari Daivari said that Orange Cassidy has been ignoring his text to join them. But Orange just dismissed him. Also, we saw the AEW Dynamite on-screen debut of Parker Boudreaux, the former Harland in WWE. Then they had the TBS Championship on the line. It was Jade Cargill against Madison Rayne. Match was okay at best, if even that. Not that great of a match. Jade overpowered Rayne early on until Rayne avoided a tackle and landed a missile dropkick. Rayne countered an electric chair by turning it into a Hurricane Rana outside. A distraction from Kiera Hogan allowed Jade to crush Rayne with a spear ahead of a break. Back from a commercial break, Jade hit a one-armed suplex. Rayne returned fire with a jawbreaker and an enziguri. A neckbreaker followed, allowing Rayne to climb the top rope and hit something of a flipping neckbreaker for a 2. Rayne then hit a desperation DDT for 2 more as she looked like she was moving in slow motion. Kiera Hogan then hopped up on the apron and distracted Rayne. Jade went for a big boot. Madison Rayne moved out of the way. Kiera Hogan then fell off the apron, even though Jade was at least this far away. Like, say my head is Kira's head. Jade was like, she kicked over here. Kicked over here. Not even close. Not even close. Jade recovered to roll Jade. Rayne recovered to roll Jade up. Then went for the cross Rayne, but Jade reversed into a Jaded and picked up the victory. After the match, Athena would jump into the ring wearing what I thought looked like some sort of Deadpool gear thing. She was all red, but then right here on her chest, there was like these 2 zipper pockets that kind of look like the eyes of the Deadpool mask or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But Athena went to attack Jade, but Kiera Hogan pulled her out of the ring to safety. Athena then posed with the TBS Championship. They're still playing it up that Jade's never lost. In the back, Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm were there, where unfortunately Tony Schiavone let us know that Chris Statlander is no longer the #1 contender as she is out with an injury. This now propels Tony Storm as the new #1 top contender for the AEW Women's World Championship. Rosa accepted the circumstances, and Storm said that her ultimate goal is to win that championship. She's got a match next week on Dynamite, and she's going to use that to propel her momentum into a title shot. Speaking of next week on Dynamite, we got some stuff announced. First, Rampage. They loaded up this fucking Rampage. There is almost too much shit announced for a 1-hour Rampage. Like, all these talking segments are going to be boom, 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 boom. And there's going to be some fast matches. We got Bryan Danielson returns and speaks. Hook will speak. Swerve and Our Glory, the tag team champions, will speak. Gun Club will be taking on Beardhausen. Parker Boudreaux will be taking on Sonny Kiss. Orange Cassidy will be taking on Ari Daivari. And the AEW World Mixed Tag Team Championships will be on the line when Sammy Guevara, and now going by Ty Mello, going back to her maiden name, now that she's married to Sammy and no longer a Conti, against Dante Martin and Sky Blue. Also announced for next week's AEW Dynamite, the AEW World Trios Championship Tournament will kick off when the team of Andrade, Alita LaRouche, and Dragon Lee will take on the Young Bucks and a mystery opponent. Tony Storm will be taking on Kylan King, and the Best of the Two Falls match, Bryan Danielson will be taking on Daniel Garcia. So, I want to bring something up on the screen here. Disrespect to the women, and I know what you guys are going to say. It is more of an excuse than an answer. It's more of an excuse than a flippin' answer. So if we look at the graphics for next week's Dynamite, the House of the Dragon Dynamite, the Game of Thrones House of the Dragon Dynamite, we got this graphic here that specialty themed. We got this graphic here that is specialty themed. And then just a regular ass Dynamite graphic for the women. Really? And I posted this on Twitter. I was like, so why doesn't the women's match get the special graphic? And I got the excuse of, well, there's no dragon in those matches. There's no dragon in the women's match, so they don't need it. There's no dragon because they're in this match, the American Dragon and the Dragon Slayer. In this match, Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee. But it's like, no. No. If you're going to do special graphics for one match, okay. 2 matches, but not a third, that's not okay. Especially when it's just the woman's match that didn't get the special graphic. Like, you couldn't have taken this, changed that from Danielson and Garcia to Storm versus King, and then put their, no. And everyone's saying, well, there's no dragon in the woman's match. That's more of an excuse than a freaking answer. William Regal joined commentary next for the world title match, or the interim world title match. And freaking Jim Ross during this match goes, I didn't write it down per se, but he basically just says, well, that's not the real world title, or something like that. He's like, the interim title is not the real title. I'm like, oh, Jim. You did not just say, like, early in this match, Jim Ross basically just discredited the existence of the interim world championship. I'm like, oh, Lordy B. Oh, Lordy B. So Jericho came out with his Lionheart gear, and Lionheart music and Lionheart graphics. The match starts, Jericho flips off Moxley, so the champ returns the favor. There are some mind games early on and some showboating from Jericho as well. They did some chain wrestling early, and both teased finishers before Jericho almost locked on a grounded octopus and a wrist lock. Lionheart, Jericho went for the, I don't even know what I wrote here. He went for a submission until Moxley landed some strikes. Jericho returned fire by ripping Moxley's earring out and hitting his signature springboard dropkick ahead of a commercial break. Moxley just gushing blood from the ear. Like, I don't know what happened here. You would think he didn't actually rip the earring out and just kind of like unhooked, because he's fiddling with it for a while. So you would think he unhooked it and then like pulled it out. But then Mox is just bleeding from the ear like something fierce. During the break, Moxley was busted open around his ear. Jericho hit a double underhook backbreaker and a lion salt for a 2. Moxley went for a Gigi Gatame, and Jericho kicked out of pin attempt. He then wrenched on Jericho's arm, forcing Jericho to fight back with some forearms to break free. Moxley recovered to apply an ankle lock before hitting a German suplex. Jericho returned fire with a German of his own. He fought on the top rope, where Jericho hit a Frankensteiner for a 2. He wrapped Moxley's leg around the ring post and locked on a figure 4. Back in the ring, Moxley applied a crossface, where Jericho considered tapping out, but eventually was able to roll out and locked on the walls of Jericho. Then, the production team went to a picture-in-picture, where Jericho had the walls locked in for the entirety of this break, which I actually really liked that. Jericho held onto the walls for multiple minutes here through the entire break, which we eventually did see Mox finally reach the ropes, though, after the break to break the hold, get the rope break. They kept the crowd into it during the whole submission sequence, which was, well, remarkable. Moxley then landed a diving double axe handle on Jericho out to the floor. He went for it again inside the ring, but Jericho countered into a code breaker. There was a really weird moment when Sammy Guevara tried to toss Jericho's Floyd bat to him and completely just threw it up over Jericho out of the ring. So they had pulled the I'm stuttering here for a second, the turnbuckle pad off the top turnbuckle in one of the corners. Aubrey's dealing with that. Then Aubrey turns around. Jericho jumps out of the ring to grab the bat, Aubrey sees all of this. Jericho jumps back into the ring. She then walks like my little fake ring thing set up. But so here, let's see if I can use this square. Let's see if I can use this paper. So Jericho jumps up on the apron. Aubrey is over here in the corner. And she walks this way. Jericho jumps into the ring with the bat. And you see Aubrey go like this. Looks over at Jericho. Turns her head so she doesn't see him. Keeps walking like this. And Jericho uses the bat. And I'm like, really? Really? If this is a real world situation, she would have saw that bat. She would have saw him use that bat. She wouldn't have, oh, he's got the bat. I'm not supposed to be looking. AEW just loves to make their referees look stupid, dumb, and incompetent. These dummies. Jericho eventually uses the bat. After a cradle exchange, Jericho hit the Judas effect for a great near fall. They said no one's ever kicked out of the Judas effect. Moxley did. Jericho grabbed the title belt. Aubrey tried to stop him from using it. He tried to use it. Moxley moved out of the way, and Jericho went face first into the turnbuckle. Moxley then locked on a rear naked choke and then a bully choke. Jericho at this point was busted open pretty badly. He turned the choke into a lion tamer, which Moxley in turn floated over into a ground and pound. Moxley reapplied the rear naked choke. Jericho fought and fought and fought and fought, but eventually tapped out as the champion retains the title. After the match, Sammy Guevara, who was sitting at ringside moments earlier, all of a sudden in the back, runs out with Jake Hager. They attack Moxley. This leads to the Blackpool Combat Club coming out to make the save. This then leads to 2.0 and Daniel Garcia jumping in to make the save. The Jericho Appreciation Society, of course, has the man number advantage. And I'm sitting there going, where's Punk? This is all a perfect way to set up Punk to clear the ring and it just be him and Mox. That's exactly what happened. Cult of Personality plays. Jericho runs, or Moxley, nope, Punk runs down. The JAS meet him in the aisle way as he dispatches 2.0, Guevara, Hager, and Jericho. Punk jumps into the ring. He's celebrating, taking out all those guys by himself, basically. And then he gets face-to-face with Jon Moxley. The two get face-to-face. Moxley eventually flips him off, bumps his shoulder, jumps out of the ring. He then goes over to Claudio, who he does one of those, like, bro high fives, like the stiff high fives, grabs him, pulls him in shoulder first, right to Claudio's chest. He's like, yeah. And then Punk's in the ring, bouncing on one foot to show us, my foot's fine. I'm good to go. I'm back. Let's do it. He then sits down in the ring and goes, there's only one world. He's basically saying there's only one real world champion. There's only one world champion, and it's him. Basically, we have just learned the main event of All In. Main event of All Out, I mean. Not All In. Is it All In? I always get these fucking things mixed up. AEW All Out. I always get that freaking mixed up. It's All Out, not All In. My bad. AEW All Out, the main event. It's going to be the unification match. Because after the match, Moxley's walking off. He's all pissed off. He's got his belt over his shoulder. He's being Austin, doing the whole, fuck this guy. With his belt over his shoulder. He's like shaking the head and everything. And you hear, I think it's Jim Ross. Eventually, these two are going to have to meet no, I think it was Excalibur. Eventually, these two are going to have to meet one day to unify those titles. And I'm like, well, no shit, Sherlock. It's All Out. September 4th in Chicago at the Now Arena. So, Punk's back. He's going to fight Moxley for the title at All Out. And honestly, that's the only main event they had. There was nobody else, unless they wanted to turn Danielson against Moxley. There was nobody else ready for that spot. So basically, Punk had to be ready. Had to be ready. But with that, guys, that is everything that went down tonight on AEW Dynamite. I thought it was a pretty good show. Again, a little too much blood for my taking. And not that I'm against blood. Not that, I don't like blood. I'm too much of a one of them, you know? It's just when you do blood so often, the importance of what blood is supposed to bring to a match isn't there anymore. And I just feel like AEW does the blood stuff too much. But with that, you know what I thought of the show. Now it's time to hear what you guys thought of tonight's AEW Dynamite. With that, remember, you can let me know what you thought by texting into the show 510-906-1341. Again, that's 510-906-1341. But before we do that, let's check the polls. Let's check the Twitch poll. As far as the Twitch poll does go, 56% liked tonight's show, 22% thought it was just all right, and 22% did not like it. As far as the YouTube community poll does go, 63% liked the show, 22% thought it was just all right, and 14% did not like Dynamite. And as far as the YouTube poll, 65% liked the show, 18% did not like the show, and 17% thought it was just all right. As far as the text messages do go, we got two. Another person says, who's your pick to win the Trios World Tag Team titles? Oh, it's Bucks and Omega. And this person here says, I think Jade Cargill would have been better in WWE because they have better trainers. Do you think Jade will go to WWE? Well, Jade tried to go to WWE and they said no. When Mark Henry was still working for WWE, Mark Henry got Jade Cargill a tryout. Apparently, she killed the tryout, was the best athlete there, the best one of the bunch. Well, I'm wrong. I take that back. No, she didn't tell them no. They offered her a contract, and she felt like they were lowballing her or something like that. Hold on, let me look this up. She's talked about this before. Jade Cargill was offered a deal by WWE after a tryout in 2019. However, she made the decision to not join AEW or WWE and join AEW instead, rather than signing a WWE 100-page contract, is what she said. She says since then she's become the inaugural TBS champion. But yes, she decided to not sign a contract with WWE. That's what it was. She killed the tryout. She was the best one there. They all loved her. Mark Henry wanted her to sign, and she didn't. Ended up saying that I don't want to sign their big old contract with all their rules. And then she went to AEW instead. Mark went to AEW and said, come over here. And this person says, so obviously Omega will return next week. Do you see MJF returning at all out and attacking Punk after he beats Moxley for the belt? I can see that, but it's like, why? So we just get more Punk and MJF? I don't think AEW would do that. I wouldn't put it against them, but look how long it's been since the last time we had a Jericho Moxley match. That's the one thing that Tony Khan does well most of the time. Spreads out big matches and big stories. When there's a storyline that goes on for a little while, we don't see interaction for a long time. Like, think about when AEW first started. Their biggest tag team storyline was the Young Bucks and the Lucha Bros. They had and this was because it had to be this long of a storyline because AEW was only running special events for the first 6 months of the company. But they had a good 6-7 month story, an arc. Then didn't even face off or meet or do anything for 2 years. That's something Tony Khan likes to do, is when you have a storyline with multiple matches and multiple things and this and that, he then distances those people. So I wouldn't put it against them, but I also don't think Tony would do it so soon. But with that, that's all we got, guys. That's going to wrap everything up. I do want to say thank you if you're watching live, twitch.tv/PW Unlimited, or if you're watching later, youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Unlimited, or listening on podcast services all around the globe like Stitcher, Spotify, Google Pod, Apple Pod, Anchor, iHeartRadio, and so much more. So with that, guys, have a great rest of your Wednesday night. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you back Friday morning for the wrestling wrap-up. Have a good one, guys.